Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another installment of the Ambassadorial Wing. And tonight, we hop in our Wayback Machine and jump back to the 1980s. And on my little journey with me this evening, I've got Mr. CCDV and the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Stackhouse. And Sean, being this is your first time. This is your first time to the Ambassadorial Wing. We have popped your ambassadorial cherry, so congratulations.
Thank you. It felt amazing, I have to say.
That's what she said. Sorry. And very quickly to the chat, Colin P. Smith, thank you for your patience. Thank you for waiting so long. Thank you for being here this evening. I greatly appreciate it, as always. So, yeah, as I said, tonight we're going to put another installment of Icons of the 80s into the books. And tonight we're going to be talking about V, the miniseries, and V, the final battle. And gentlemen, why don't you give yourselves some brief intros and then we will jump on in.
Hello, everybody. Mr. CCDV, co-host of the Insomniac Soup, host of karaoke on Saturday nights, host of Comparative Religion on Wednesdays, and host of a Bible study on Sunday mornings. I hope you guys can join me. I will, honestly, I swear I'll get around to actually filming more of my memoirs. I really will. I swear I will.
Oh, I suppose it's my turn. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Sean. It's all right.
I thought he was taking a dramatic pause. What's up, guys? I am Sean Stackhouse. My channel is Sean Stackhouse Reacts. I do pretty much everything across the spectrum of pop culture, from like the 80s up through the 90s especially, and even some modern stuff. I'm a huge DC fan. I've been following DC fandom all day today. I've been doing reactions, and it's been fantastic. It's been fantastic.
That's what I've heard. I've heard there's been a few little bumps here and there, but otherwise it's been a really good thing. So
there have been, yeah, there have.
And for all of you who have taken time out of your DC fandom experience to come on over here to Ambassador Wing, I do greatly appreciate it. Obviously, we're not talking about comics. We're not talking about superheroes. We're talking about giant lizards. As Mr. CC's avatar indicates, this was truly a benchmark of the 1980s, V and V, the Final Battle. These were two miniseries back when miniseries were still a thing. And I'll go on camera for this for a little bit. Because miniseries in the 70s and going into the 80s were kind of still a big thing. And with this one, they did something different. They went sci-fi, which was not very common, honestly. I think one of the bigger miniseries before this, I think, was North and South, which was more historical drama and everything else under the sun. And very quickly to the chat, Darth Astor. Good evening, Darth Astor. Good to see you. Glad you could pop in. I hope you've had a very restful and pleasant Saturday. So, fellas, I'm gonna open up the floor. Where do you want to begin with these two miniseries?
Well, I think we talked about this the other day, like exactly the year that V came out. It was in the very I don't think it was mid 80s. It was early, like what, like 80.
It was 80. It was 83.
83. Okay. Yeah. And I just remember being a kid, born in 77, still relatively young, and seeing, I was watching this with my dad, and everything was cool, everything was like sci-fi, like Star Wars, and then the first time I saw somebody peel off the side of their face, I was just completely engrossed in it. It didn't freak me out like it might a lot of kids. I was just like, that is so cool. Because I mean, you had never, at least I had never seen anything else like that on television at that time. It was a pivotal moment in my mind. And I, growing up, I would ask people, you'd be like, hey, you guys remember V and the final battle and the series? People are like, no, and not until they came out with the reboot years later, which is far inferior. I mean, graphically it's superior, but
yes, because I did try to watch a few episodes of the reboot that they did, and it didn't land. It didn't land, I think, the way they hoped. It didn't resonate with people the way they were hoping it would, because it had been so long, and the other one that was still relatively fresh in people's minds, at least for someone my age, well, you and me, Sean, and Mr. Cece especially, because this was an event. This Warner Brothers, and I'm amazed this isn't on HBO Max. It very well may be, or they may put it on at some point. I'm hoping they do, because this is something I think a lot of people would love to revisit, because this was an event. We had not seen a miniseries like this before on this scale. The guy who created, Kenneth Johnson, he really put his time and his effort and his heart into this show, because he wanted to bring something that was not only science fiction, but something that was also timely, that was relevant to the time, because we were getting towards the back end of the Cold War, but the events of World War II were still relatively fresh in everybody's mind. And this series, both parts, well, especially the first part, but the second part in particular, very much feed into that whole, what would happen if the Earth was occupied the same way that Europe was occupied by by the Nazis and everything in the 1930s and 40s.
I put my microphone on mute so you wouldn't hear my washing machine going thump, thump, thump.
Oh, it's okay.
I forgot to unmute it. I've been talking this whole time.
Oh, no.
It's okay, Cece. Well, go ahead. Everything. What were your thoughts, please?
Oh, it was an event. Absolutely. We would make dinner early on the nights it was on, so we could gather around the TV and watch it. And it was the entire family. All 6 of us in the living room sitting there watching the TV. Oh, it was so much fun. It was one of my mom's favorite miniseries. And it is absolutely brilliant. So I love watching it over and over again. I lost it for 30 years. I'd seen it a couple of times, and then once more again in the late 80s. And then, I just kind of lost it. I remembered it. And just like Sean said, I would ask people, you remember V? And they'd be like, what?
It was just called, and that was one of the really interesting things, was it was just simply called V, and all you had was that giant spray painted red V. Absolutely. And nothing else on the black background, or depending on what kind of case it was on, you might have the saucers, and everything in the background or whatever. And the one thing that I remembered about the series, or at least when the trailer and everything was out and everything for the preview for it, they had the one scene where it was the one scientist with his mentor, and they were out in the field, and they found this ancient skeleton, this ancient human skeleton. And they had the skeleton in the foreground, and then you saw one of the saucers coming over, and it was almost like the skull was bigger than the saucer. And that was a very iconic image for me. Not to mention, of course, you had this. Now, we don't have to get into this right now, but you had a top-notch cast for this. You had a lot of great day players and a lot of international stars in this. And this was a good cast. This was a surprisingly good cast, especially for a TV series or a TV miniseries. Because oftentimes, with TV miniseries, you might have 1 or 2 names that were fairly big, like I mentioned before with North and South and everything. But with V, you had a really good cast, and of course, you had at the center of it, and I think this is justified. You had Mark Singer, who was a big name in the 1980s and everything. This was one of the things he was known for. Beast Master was another one.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, he did a whole series of those. I think he did like 2 or 3 Beastmasters movie. I can't remember off the top of my head.
And there was a TV series as well, but yeah.
I think my favorite actor and character in this miniseries, and he was only in the first 2 episodes, right? Was Leonardo Ciamino or Cimino. He played Abraham Bernstein, the old guy who was like, "This isn't going to go well." He's the one that took the spray paint can and showed the little kids how to really screw up the paintings. Great big V.
Here is how you do it. Go tell your friends.
Man,
and go ahead, Sean, please.
Oh, I'm just gonna say I hope this is added to HBO Max if it's not there already, because I need to experience this. I have a very vivid memory of watching it. But I mean, it's been so many years since I've actually sat and watched it. I need to do it again.
Yeah, I binge watched it a couple of weeks ago to prepare for a stream that was covering this. So I'm pretty fresh on remembering the series.
Well,
I had to buy it on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I ended up getting both parts, and I also ended up getting a Transformers the anime movie and everything a few weeks back and everything. I ordered all 3 because these were things that I wanted to have. And V for me is, like I said, it's an icon. It's iconic of the 80s. It was something we had not seen before. I mean, and I remember, much like you, Sean, and everything, me and my mother and my grandmother and everything, we'd fix dinner early. We would sit down and watch this and everything. And the crazy thing was, for some dumb reason, I remember this being longer for whatever reason, because the DVD for the first one's only like 3 hours and 15 minutes or 3.5 hours long, give or take, and everything.
Really?
And yeah. It was only like 3 hours long. Now I don't remember how they split this up. If they split it up into like half-hour segments, or if they split it into hour segments. Well, of course, you got to remember commercials. And commercials.
They were 2-hour segments over 4 days.
Okay.
And they did it a year apart. That's why it felt like it was on for so long. So we watched the first part in 1983, and then in 1984 we watched the second part, the final battle.
Yeah.
What was so interesting about, well, maybe not interesting, but you had to actually watch it live, unless you were wealthy enough to have a VCR back then. We didn't have DVRs on demand, so unless you caught it, like, I don't even know if they, like with a miniseries, I don't even know if they would have like rerun it during the summer. I don't remember.
They probably would have. I think this is actually something that they did. No, I don't remember if they did this during the fall or if it was something that did the summer, because even back then in the 80s they would do miniseries during the summer.
Well, that is true. That is true.
But
yeah,
now
you're right.
But now I do remember and everything. Again, another when Blockbuster still existed story. I remember me and my mom, we went to Blockbuster one time. I was like, and I actually hollered at my mom. I was like, "Mom!" across the Blockbuster store, and she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Come here." She's like, "What?" I was like, "It's V." She's like, "Well, I'll be damned." I was like, "We're getting this." She's like, "We're renting this." She's like, "Oh yeah, we're renting this." because the crazy thing was, and I've talked about this a little bit, I grew up in a home that very much encouraged my nerdy side or anything. Now, my mom would never say that she was a geek or a nerd. Far from it. She just liked what she liked. But
Mhm.
she's like, my son's a nerd. I'm going to let him be a nerd. I don't care. She's
Yeah.
like, he's old. He's old enough to take care of himself. So, but because being a nerd back in the 80s, it wasn't hard. You, Sean, you and me, Cece, I think we all went through those wars. So
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'd watch all
Yeah.
those shows with my dad on Saturdays. You know,
Mhm.
Mhm.
the Battlestar Galactica and the Thunderbirds Go and all those other shows that came on Saturday afternoons. Me and my dad would sit there and watch them all day long.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too. My dad was probably the person that got me into sci-fi, because I remember he was always reading fantasy and sci-fi books, you know, and
Mhm.
watching that type of thing. And so, you know, when these things came on, he and I would definitely watch them, and so many good memories.
Yeah, the funny thing is, my dad is the one who got me into film media. My mom is the one who got me into printed media.
Really?
So when I talk about the icons of sci-fi, I'm talking about the golden age with Isaac Asimov and Robert Heinlein and Arthur C. Clarke as the
yes.
triad of brilliance.
Nice.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. I would
Talk
agree.
about films. I talk about, you know, Star Trek, Star Wars, and Dune, and you know, those iconic movies that came out in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
we're not getting that anymore, you know. But
Sadly, no.
And I would pay double the ticket price if they were still making movies like that.
yeah, if they were still making them like that, if they were making miniseries like this, like V, you know, it would be a family event, just like it was back when I was a kid. You know, we'd sit around the TV and eat popcorn and watch the show all together as a family. What can you watch now as a family? What's out there that you can watch as a family? I watch Shazam with my kids.
Yeah, that it's really hard. I mean,
it is. Unless, well, you know, I will make this argument, and I know this might be one that no one wants to hear. But for movies that families can sit around and watch, you can always go Disney. I mean, that's
that's
okay.
true.
Let me qualify. Retro Disney. You can go that. You can definitely go that route. Now there is some stuff from like the Renaissance era that I do enjoy deeply, but that's another topic for another time. You know, the thing about this is, and to the chat, Superior Hero Reviews, Cody, good to see you, bud. Thank you for popping in. Hope you enjoyed Fandom. Thank you for popping in, as always. Good to see you.
Superior Hero.
Yep, good guy. Very, very good guy. Sean, I think you and Superior would get along. He's a huge comic guy himself.
Nice.
Yep.
Always enjoy talking to people about comics.
Yeah, he is he's got a very nice
You know, actually, speaking of comics, like the other day after our stream, I got to thinking about V, and the amount, like the budget for that back in 1983 had to have been tremendous in $1983.
Yeah,
and
it was not cheap.
It probably and the way I connect the dots in my head, you know, it always leads back to superheroes at some point. But it probably paved the way for TV studios being willing to do something like Smallville and Arrow and, you know, things like that have like these huge action scenes, like almost cinematic scenes. And, you know, maybe without V, we wouldn't have some of the really cool TV shows that we've had over the past maybe 20 years.
Well,
yeah, V was definitely a groundbreaking miniseries for its time.
Absolutely.
Well, the interesting thing is with V, it did lay the groundwork for a lot of stuff going forward, if you think about it, because I think right around that time we got Buck Rogers, which unfortunately didn't do particularly well. But I think the other thing, yeah, it was a good show. But
Beady.
the other thing, now if you can tell me who did the voice of Twiggy, you get a cookie and a gold star.
I give up.
Oh, come on. He is the man of 1,000 voices.
Oh, Mel
You
Blanc.
heard him.
Of course.
Yeah, Mel Blanc. That figures.
Mel Blanc, the great one himself. Yeah. But if you think about these long-term significance in terms of what it did, laying the groundwork for a lot of other shows. If it had not done as well as it did, the 2 parts at least, the 2 miniseries, we may have never gotten Quantum Leap.
Oh yeah.
We may, and I know this was a number of years later. Go ahead, Cece.
Well, I was going to say they may not have revived Star Trek with TNG if we hadn't gotten V. So
because TNG was not cheap.
Oh, and Colin P. Smith brings up a good one. Alien Nation.
Yeah.
Even
that was a great series.
The movie, and the unfortunate thing was the TV series only lasted 1 season, but the TV show was actually really good because I can't remember the name of the actor who played
I'd have to look it up.
Character. Yeah, because it's been. I'm usually really good at it, but I didn't have a chance to do prep for this like I normally do and everything. I've been at work all morning, and then had to run to town and everything with the missus, so I haven't had a chance to do my research like I wanted. But yeah, V in a lot of ways it laid the groundwork, and it gave entertainment, it gave the TV stations and all these other studios the idea people want good sci-fi, so let's give it to them. Now it took them. Colin P. That might be it. I'm thinking of the actor who played James Caan's character from the movie, because if you remember, James Caan played the human, Mandy Patinkin played the alien. So,
Mandy Patinkin played the alien. I didn't know that
in the movie. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, in the movie,
okay,
he did. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, if we had not gotten V, we may very well, even though there was such a good response to all the TOS films and everything, that they eventually did decide to revamp and everything Star Trek and give us Next Generation. It may not have been received as well as it did. And yes, Darth Astor, Robert Englund was in V. He played Willie, one of the aliens.
Yep.
So
it was Eric Pierpoint who played Detective Francisco. Eric Pierpoint.
That was actually my first exposure to Robert Englund before I saw any Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Yeah, same. Yeah. And the interesting thing with this show is a lot of actors and actresses got their start, and Robert Englund was one of those actors. Michael Ironside was another. And I think particularly in the second part, because he made such a good impression as Hamilton or Ham and everything, that I imagine obviously he's gone on to have a pretty decent career and everything in Hollywood and everything. Since then, I don't know if he's been particularly active lately, but up until at least...
I think he was cast in Starship Troopers based on his role in V.
Would not surprise me.
That is one sci-fi movie that I've never actually gotten around to watching, and I hear it's actually fantastic.
What, Starship
It is.
Yeah. I like it. I prefer the book, but I like the movie.
Yeah, there's been very much a divorce between the movie and the book. The book is much more heavy in tone. I will tell you, Sean, in terms of Starship Troopers, the first movie, because they actually did 3 movies, CC, I think it is? 3 live action movies?
Yeah, 3 live action movies and a bunch of cartoon stuff.
Yeah, a lot of animated stuff. The first movie, it's campy, it's cheesy, but if you're good with that sort of thing, you will enjoy it.
Well, I mean, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so campy and
Same.
cheesy is my bag.
I'll have to double check, but I think I found Starship Troopers on a streaming service somewhere and everything. Once this is over, I'll double check. I can't remember if it's on Max. I don't think it's on Max though, but it's on a free streaming service. It's on like Crackle or Tubi or something like that. I'll double check. I'll let you know.
Sweet.
So, yeah, you'd be amazed or anything which you can find on some of these free streaming services. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I don't know how you could do it, but maybe we should get a petition together and say, hey, HBO Max, while Netflix is being stupid, bring us something good. Put V on there.
Yeah.
And not the reboot, please.
No, not the reboot.
No, not the reboot. The original 1980s miniseries.
That would be awesome. I mean, the thing is that like I've explained this to my mom a couple of times because she doesn't understand. You know, the shows that were made like pre-digital streaming eras, when they made all the contracts, there was nothing in there about streaming rights. So, you know, whenever she asks, so why isn't this on or this on? It's because they're like they have to go in and they have to do like a bunch of legal stuff to even begin to consider streaming this. And you know that could be the issue with a lot of the 80s sci-fi, like maybe even V. You know, maybe that's why we don't have it on Netflix or Hulu or anything.
Well, if you know, here's the thing. I think it's never left Warner Brothers rights and everything. I don't think they ever lost the rights to it because it was produced by them and it was put out by them. But
Okay.
I think I can't remember which. I think it was NBC that I think televised it more than likely because, well, NBC was the big guy back in the day and everything. Of course, you had NBC, CBS, and ABC, but I'm pretty sure it was NBC that televised both parts.
I think you're right. NBC had a lot of stuff from a bunch of different studios.
Mm-hmm. So, but you know, the great thing was it looked like, because I actually watched the behind the scenes and everything stuff, because there's a little bit of it and everything for the first part of the miniseries for just V, the original. Johnson was given, Kenneth Johnson was given a lot of leeway. Everything, the studio didn't monkey around too much. Everything, there weren't a bunch of producers on there saying, we don't want you to do this, we want you to do this. He was pretty much given creative freedom throughout the entire run and everything. I don't know if he was involved at all with the TV series, but well, considering how the TV series went, I get the very distinct impression he was not. Of course, I could be wrong.
It did come out in the spring of 1983.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. That does.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. So, of course, that was forever ago.
You think?
Well, and we've done a nice little overview here. Why don't we get into like the design of the world and everything, like with the creatures and with the ships and the technology and all that sort of stuff? What did y'all think of that?
Well, I mean, like I said, I just watched it recently, and some of the special effects don't hold up. And of course, the ridiculousness of a lizard face underneath a human face, it really didn't work out so well. But at the time when I was a kid, it was like, oh my God, that's so scary.
It was the coolest thing, you know, back in the day. But, you know, now it's like, okay,
you could do better.
Well, yeah, they could do better now, but for the time, I would say for that time, for the early '80s, I thought it was actually really good. And I get what you're saying, Cece. The visual effects, I know they tried to clean them up and everything for the DVD release and everything, or the Blu-ray release rather, and they did a pretty good job at that.
And remember, we're not allowed to say that what's her name? Faye Grant was a strong female character because they didn't exist before this decade.
That's right. That's right.
But, I mean, Faye Grant only organized the resistance and found places for them to live and dealt with all of the problems that were going on for the V's. And, you know, she only did all of that, but she wasn't a strong female character.
No,
Yeah.
well, I'm sorry. There are strong characters, both male and female, by the bushel in this show.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
oh God, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Sean, please.
Oh, what I was gonna say is that you know, as far as like thinking back on how the series looked, we have to remember that they did everything that they accomplished with mainly practical effects. You know, this was before the CGI boom. And you know, there were a bunch of scale models and stuff, you know, like miniature stuff, like much like George Lucas did was like the original Star Wars trilogy.
A lot of people have the toys and things that came out at the time. I don't. I never did, but
yeah, I wish I did. That would be cool. But you know, for you know, now if they would have taken those exact same models and sets, and they would have taken it to the cinema, and they would have put like extra spice and magic on it, it would look a lot better. You know, even in '83. But on a TV budget, I still think for the time, if you try not to compare it to what we see every day on TV now, it was very groundbreaking.
It was.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think for a lot of people, what sucked them in initially was the effects, because we had not seen a practical effects and everything like this on TV before.
Nope.
Right.
But what people stuck around for was the story and the characters. All the visual stuff, you know, looking at this now in 2020, yeah, I will say that all the visual effects and all like that are very dated. But what I go for is the character and the stories. That's what I go for.
As long as it's like character driven and it has good writing, then I can overlook everything else.
Ditto. Yeah, because this was exceedingly well written. It was.
It was a wonderful story, an absolutely wonderful story, and that's why people loved it. Now, I still love it, and I'll watch it again because it is a wonderful story. So the effects don't hold up, but they were brilliant in 1983. You know, what can you do? How do you show a flying saucer coming over a mountain when you're in South America? How do you do that? And the men and women who made that happen were absolutely brilliant at practical effects.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, look at it this way. If the television movie event of like maybe even the decade for the 80s, the day after, if you can, like, I watched that a few years ago, and it just left me depressed for like a month. You know, if it can still have that effect on you, you know, like with all of that technology back then you know, these, like something like V can still have like a similar effect, not depression, but you know, still like this is very good, and you're overlooking everything because of the story that you're being told.
Yes. Like I still like watching Ming the Merciless.
Flash Gordon.
Yes.
Flash Gordon. I still love watching Flash Gordon because it's such a fun show to watch. And the effects in that were just awful, just horribly awful.
But we don't care because we don't go for the practical effects. We go for the characters. We go for the story, and of course, we go for one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, done by one of
the Queen soundtrack. Yes.
Flash. Oh.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Okay, that'd be a cool crossover. This would be a cool crossover. Just quick aside. Flash Gordon meets V.
Ooh.
Oh, nice! Wow.
That would be freaking epic. Particularly,
I would watch that.
I would watch that.
I wouldn't know what to expect, but I would be watching it.
Ambassador, you want to explain to Mando Merc there that the Transformers is coming up soon?
Well, actually, Transformers already passed.
Oh man, I missed it. Oh,
yeah, you did. That was last weekend. Yeah, Mando Merc. Tonight we're talking about V the miniseries and V the final battle. That's what we're talking about. So you'll have to go back a couple of weeks to when we talked about Transformers, and then last week was the Transformers 86 movie watch party. So sorry, bud.
Yeah, I have to agree. It was an icon of the 80s, obviously. Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. I was so disappointed when I missed the first 5 minutes of it because my dad got me to the theater late.
Oh,
I'm so mad.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing was I didn't get to see the movie. Just a quick aside. I didn't get to see the movie and everything in theaters. I didn't get to watch it until it came out on VHS in like the 90s. And I'm almost pretty sure that my mom still has the VHS, even though I've got it on Blu-ray now. I've got the 30th anniversary edition.
I do too. It's in that tin can, right? You open the tin can and you take out the Blu-ray.
No, mine's not in the tin can.
Oh, you bought the cheaper version. Fine, whatever.
you know what I find really interesting. Not to stay on this topic because I know we're talking about V, but like as far as like 80s properties go, like when they had cartoon animated features in the theater, Transformers the movie and G.I. Joe the movie were both better than any cinematic version that they've done yet.
Yeah.
You had to bring up the movie.
Don't bring up the new movies.
No. He's talking about the anime movie from the 80s that was done done in the aftermath of one of the greatest travesties in the 1980s, the death of Optimus Prime.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
And then because there was such a horrible backlash,
they brought him back as a ghost.
Not only did they bring back Optimus, but they also chickened out with the death of Duke, and they said he was just in a coma.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because there was a voiceover right after Serpentor stabs him in the chest with the giant snake spear thingy, and I think it's Scarlet that says, well, you can't actually see her say it.
Now, you see the difference between this miniseries, V, which was made to entertain people, versus those cartoons that we've been talking about that were made to sell toys, right?
Also, in the case of Transformers the movie, it was made to traumatize little children. Optimus Prime, your favorite, most likely your favorite action figure dies, and you're like, what? Yeah.
Colin Peace. I didn't mean to interrupt you or ignore you. He says, well, do you remember that Buster Crabbe had a role in an episode of Buck Rogers as a character named Colonel Gordon? No, I did not actually know that because I very rarely got to watch Buck Rogers, sadly. Although Aaron Gray was always a win.
I was very young when Buck Rogers was out, so I really don't remember a lot of that. And I've tried to look it up and find it, and I don't want to buy it, but I will if I have to. It's just that beady. That's pretty much the only part of Buck Rogers I remember.
I would hope that Buck Rogers would not be an expensive series to own.
You might be surprised.
Yeah. It is legendary, in like the nerd culture. So yeah, but it just doesn't for me, it doesn't seem like it should be on the level, like price wise, as something like V,
sorry, Sean, go ahead. Then I'll
no, go right ahead.
I got both parts relatively cheap. One was like 15 something. The other one was like 21 something.
Wow.
On Blu-ray and everything.
Oh, for Blu-ray. Man, was that on Amazon?
Yes, that was the only way I could find them because I have tried to find them like secondhand.
Yeah.
You can't find it, and I think the reason you can't find it is because everybody and their mother, once they buy it,
They
hang
don't
on
get
to
rid
it.
of it.
Ain't nobody giving those up.
No. I mean that is V is like so embedded in 80s pop culture as much as say Michael Jackson is to music, you know. I mean it was a big pop culture event when it came out. Everybody was. I remember going to school, you know, and talking about it, you know, before we went out for like the summer vacation, and we were all kids were talking about it, and you know, we like you didn't like if you didn't have the toys, you would still play make believe, you know, and we're like, okay, you rip off the side of your face, you know, you're those people, and it was so cool.
It was a lot of fun at the time.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really was.
Mhm.
Huge event for everyone who watched it.
Well,
Yes.
you know, and here's the thing: this show resonated with so many different demographics, young and old alike. I mean, yeah, Sean, I was the same way and everything when I was in elementary school because that's when this was out. We'd watch this and everything, and then like the day after at school, we'd be sitting around the lunch table. I'm not trying to say we were like highly intellectual, but like, hey, did you see the show with lizard people the other night? Yeah, wasn't that badass? Yeah, that was.
Right.
And wasn't the one lady like the one alien lady? Wasn't she actually kind of cute?
Yeah, she was.
Okay, all right. I got to say this. I have got to say this, and yes, I am a happily married man. But Diana was a babe. She was evil, but she was a babe.
Yeah, she was.
She was.
Yeah, she was. And I want to answer Darth Haster. You're not the only one who likes the new V series because Marina Baccarin can make anything better.
Yes, and it also had Laura Vanderhoot, I think, that she played Supergirl on Smallville. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, you know,
the new series has its moments, but the old series, you can't beat that.
Mr. Lindell, I tried to get a hold of you and everything, but I have been so busy I didn't have a chance. If you would like to join us, shoot me a DM and I will DM you the link if you want to join in on the conversation, sir. And either way, thank you for popping in, sir. Good to see you. Yeah, Mr. Lindell, he is a very groovy guy. He was on me and he was on with DJ Odyssey and myself and everything the other night when we were talking about weird science.
Oh, another classic.
From my heart, from your hand, don't people understand my intention?
You know, it's funny that Oingo Boingo wrote the theme song, and Danny Elfman, who was an Oingo Boingo, is also responsible for themes for like most of Tim Burton's movies, but you know, specifically Batman. You know, so you go from like weird science to like this epic Batman score.
I know, right?
Have you heard the CD music for Darkened Theater?
No.
That's Danny Elfman's conglomerations of his movies themes. His scores. Cool. Just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Music for a Darkened Theater. You got to look that up.
I need to, yes.
Wow.
I was going to say Danny Elfman was Oingo Boingo, but I watched the former members of Oingo Boingo just back in November, and they're still badass.
Really?
Yes. Even with the new singer, they're still badass.
Wow. I mean, Oingo Boingo, I mean, Danny Elfman would not be an easy frontman to replace, but
no, he wouldn't.
Because I mean, he's obviously he's brilliant when it comes to writing music. So, but yeah,
it's always been about the music and the arrangements and things like that. So, you know, a bunch of us old farts. we felt like teenagers again when we went to go see that concert. Me and my brothers were like, "Oh yeah, woo!"
I mean, who would guess that Oingo Boingo would be putting on a show, you know, in like the relative past, you know? I mean, that's so like out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be down for it.
Well, speaking of music, this miniseries had some really good music. I mean, especially the second part. That second theme, or the theme to V the Final Battle. Man, it was so darn cool. And if I thought I could get away with playing it here, I'd do it. But I know there's no way I could, because Warner Brothers would be like, no.
Brilliant arrangements with the way it just swelled into the dramatic scenes and then dropped off, and you heard the background, and then it would swell again, and then you had that great big final, and it's like boom, boom, boom. It was yep. Oh, they don't make soundtracks like that anymore.
No, they really don't. I mean, you compare. Well, see, it's just like when you and I streamed the other day, we were talking about how like the 80s, maybe even like you could include the 70s and 80s and 90s were the renaissance of like golden age, the golden age of Hollywood, you know. And among the golden age of Hollywood was also the golden age of theme songs. So like John Williams, you know, anything that John Williams would write was like just phenomenal, you know, and Danny Elfman. And so, things are not the same anymore. And it's a real shame.
Colin P. Smith brings up a very good point.
Yeah. And this is something we can delve into. I mean, I know it's going into the second part, but we're not making we're not marking where we're talking about one or the other. We're just kind of just going across the board here. What about the part with the balloons and everything, dispensing that powder gas or whatever it was and everything into the world and everything, and it was basically a poison against the visitors.
Yeah, poisoning the planet so the visitors couldn't use it. That was an absolutely brilliant move. As far as dispersal methods for a fifth column, of course they did that, and they did it brilliantly too, because they fed false information up to the mothership saying, oh, we're going to use these ships to disperse the gas or the powder. And so they shot down a couple of the ships, and lo and behold, it was balloons, and all they had to do was put it into the stratosphere so it would disperse all over the grasses and the water and everything, and the visitors couldn't use it anymore. So I thought it was a brilliant effort.
Yeah, well, and also you think about like the early 80s. I mean, you didn't have a whole lot of options at hand, you know. So that was, I think that was a very, very well thought out way to do this.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not to mention, you had the whole part and everything. We can talk about this and everything as well. I just sent Mr. Lindell the link, so he'll be joining us here in a few minutes. Yeah, you know, for me, the whole conclusion to this series, I know we're kind of bouncing around here some, was very intriguing the way it all culminated. Because you had the child from the young girl and the one alien who was the first test subject for the gas and everything, and it turned out the child was special somehow. Or anything, she was like a hybrid between a human and a visitor, which interesting.
Yeah,
but this whole idea of using the hot air balloons and then using Mike Donovan's son Sean as a unwitting spy and everything to trick the visitors and everything, and the one that's in charge of security, Stephen. I thought that was all very well interwoven together and everything to make both a dramatic but also very satisfying conclusion and everything, to getting the visitors off the planet and leaving everybody else okay. So,
yeah.
And since we were talking about music, the music changed dramatically between the sinister low tones and minor keys and things that were going on throughout the series. to when they did those balloons, and it was major keys, and it was bright, and it was huge, you know? I mean, just the music was brilliant in that scene. I loved it.
That music is such an integral part of visual entertainment. You know, it can make or break a scene. It can enhance a scene. I mean, it's just so important, and I think people sometimes take the music, the scores for the TV series or the movies for granted.
Very well said. Yes.
Yeah, very good.
I would, honestly, I would agree with that, Sean, and everything. And here he is. Mr. Lindell, good evening, sir.
Hey.
How are you, Mr. Lundell?
Oh, I'm pretty good.
Have you recovered from last night's snafu?
Oh, I'm still wrecking my brains. What the hell happened? But you know what? If you check the live reaction playlist on my channel, it's there.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't get taken down, but stupid YouTube.
They got algorithms running the damn shop now, so
yeah, unfortunately,
that didn't make sense because reaction video. Okay, that's that's public commentary.
Yeah, that's clearly fair use.
Yeah.
So, well, Sean, Mr. Lindell, I believe this is the first time the two of you have met. So, and Mr. Lindell, this is your first time on the channel. So we have popped your ambassadorial cherry as well. So welcome. You and Sean are officially ambassadors. Welcome to the crew.
I have to ask: is that a shelf of vinyl records behind you?
Yes, it is.
And are those two real guitars hanging up?
Of course.
You're a man after my heart.
Mr. Lindell is a man of refined taste, a man of many talents, and a man of very good humor. And I will say, a man who has a good taste in women if you look at the posters behind him.
I had to comment on that because I've got a shelf of vinyl records over here, and I've got multiple guitars of my own.
Yeah, Mr. Lundell has good taste in music, good taste in movies, good taste in beer. Because Shiner Bock is one of my favorites.
Oh,
well, Mr. Lindell and everything, we've all had a little bit of a turn and everything talking about this. Your thoughts on the miniseries, and we're talking about both. We're not talking about the TV show. We're just talking about the two miniseries, the original and then V: The Final Battle. I open the floor to you, sir.
As I remember back, that was great television at the time.
Yes.
So I was in junior high. I was attending a community college. I was about to say junior college. Not too many people know what a junior college is anymore, but it was community college. And among the guys there that I hung out with, that was the talk. Everybody saw the opening hour of V.
Yep.
And they knew something better was coming. It's like the old Jewish guy, everybody kind of like stuck on what he was saying. Because the minute, if you remember, the minute they landed, he was like, wait for it. Get ready and wait for it.
Mm-hmm.
The really bad part is his asshole grandson. You know?
Don't get me started on that little turd.
I know. I mean, he turned his own family in.
Yes, his grandfather was taken in and executed because of his actions.
Yeah.
Bastard! I'd have punched him in the face myself.
Well,
but you remember, this is an allegory to World War II.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
based
that
on the
really
book.
was happening with the youth in Germany.
Yeah. Based on the book, it can't happen here, by the way.
Yeah, and they use that line many times throughout the first part of the original miniseries and everything, not the final battle itself. But yeah, the thing. Well, and we all probably have caught on to this and everything because we probably watched a lot of the making of. The symbol that was used, everything that was the moniker for the visitors was fashioned after the swastika.
Now,
And
I did not realize that until years later.
yeah,
But looking at it,
Same here.
it's a swastika.
Yeah, very true.
And actually, it's more apparent in Return of the Jedi that that he was playing with Nazi themes with the Empire.
Oh yes.
See, when the Emperor comes off the shuttle, and you see the red, the white, all the troops, red, white, and black.
Mm-hmm.
It was apparent there what he was.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Absolutely.
It was very, very clear. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Well, and Mr. Lindell, you bring up a couple of very good points, and I'm glad you did bring them up, because if we look at V and we look at the world that we live in today, in many ways there are parallels. Now, I don't want to go into a whole lot of socio-political stuff here. That's not my intention, but just we do see similar themes within V and what I'll say just specifically our country is going through right now.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because go ahead, Sean, please.
I was just going to say, I mean, we still have about 6 months left of 2020, and this has been a crazy year. So the visitors could come down. It could happen.
They're already among us, and they have degrees like in women's studies.
Yes.
And that's the problem. Instead of going to college to get a career so you can have a decent paying job,
yes,
they want to study things.
Or getting like a trade, Yeah, absolutely.
I know. That's the thing. I'm blue collar. I'm kicking ass compared to a lot of college guys.
Yeah.
It's a trip.
Yeah.
Because in the 90s, everybody started like snubbing their nose at trades, and they just went to college.
Yeah.
Now you have a bunch of people with college degrees, and they can't find jobs, while the blue collar industry is still essential.
Yeah, we've been doing it for 50 years. We can keep on doing it.
Here's the crazy thing, and then we'll get back on topic and everything. You will eventually start to see an upswing if you have not already and everything in the trade industry, because people are going to realize, hey, I can make actually a really good living and I don't have to go into debt to do it. Because if you get an apprenticeship or whatever with the in a good field, you can make a good living. You can support yourself. You can have a family and all of that.
Yeah, be a talented machinist and see what happens. You'll never be without a job if you're a talented machinist.
No, like the drummer in like my old band is a machinist, and he keeps posting things that he does, all the time on Facebook. But I would have one counterpoint to make to the upswing of blue collar jobs, and that is we're talking about generations that have been born into a digital age, and do they really want to do a job that is really labor intensive?
Well,
you ever seen one of these butt heads? You ever seen one of these butt heads texting?
All the time.
I mean,
so what do you guys think would
better than I can on a keyboard? Okay, this with their thumb. Labor intensive. They're worried about labor intensive.
I know.
They've got the dexterity.
The compare and contrast between V from 1983 versus V from just a few years ago.
Oh,
because you're talking generations, and that's what the V from a few years ago was made for, is the generation now.
Yeah.
Versus 1983, it was made for our generation.
Yeah. Well, see, I did not see this last iteration of V. I was like, okay, We got the original. It's definitive. Leave it alone.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So-
if there are some people, CC's one of them, who do like the one that they did a few years ago. You know what? That's fine. Nobody's gonna hate it. Nobody's gonna.
No, no.
hate you.
They did some callbacks. I mean, Diana was in it. You know, everybody
really?
thinks that. Yeah, everybody thinks that Marina Baccarat was the reboot of Diana.
Can
No,
you say your last
she
one again?
yeah, Baccarat.
Baccarat.
She is Diana's daughter, and Diana was in that series.
Oh,
Now,
really?
was it a great series? No, it was not a great series, but it was written for the people of today,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is kind of irritating because I don't like a lot of the people of today.
No, but on that point, there are a lot of people of like Gen X and stuff that when they like, I'm not a fan of reboots. Let me just put that out there. But there are a lot of people that when certain properties get rebooted, they start crying on the internet about how you ruined my childhood. And I'm like, I still have my original stuff. My childhood is intact. So,
Yeah, my childhood's intact.
Yeah.
And
Same here.
I've made that comment and everything, but I made it more in jest rather than being literal. I've made the comment.
right.
Michael Bay ruined my childhood because he was straight Transformers. No, my childhood's just fine. I was being a little melodramatic. I didn't actually.
Exactly.
It was meant in jest.
I still watch the cartoon. I still watch the movie. Of course, my childhood's intact. I won't watch those movies again.
And if anything could have destroyed my childhood, it would have been the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe movie.
Oh,
Don't get me started. I watched that. It was painful.
poor
It was
Dolph
almost as painful as when Skeletor was having He-Man whipped.
Yes, but I mean that was canon films. I mean, what do you expect?
It was not Dolph Lundgren's fault. It was not Dolph Lundgren's fault.
No, it was the director, whoever the director was. Maybe his name was Alan Smithy.
It
Alan
probably
Smithy.
is by now. It probably is by now. But the thing about Transformers, I was a grown up by the time the cartoon came out. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I did watch the cartoon, guilty pleasure. So I knew something about the Transformers.
I'm still watching cartoons to this day with my kids.
Mr. Lindell, there is no judgment in the Ambassadorial wing. There is no judgment whatsoever. I am a soon-to-be 42-year-old man, and I still occasionally will watch cartoons. Heck, I'll pull up Crackle and I'll watch The Critic, with John Lovett.
Oh, yeah.
I will watch cartoons, at random, probably more than anything else, and I'll also listen to Christmas music in the summer. I don't apologize.
I can't wait for this new Phineas and Ferb movie to come out because Phineas and Ferb is my favorite cartoon.
And I thought I knew you, CC. And I thought I knew you.
What are we going to do today?
Same thing
Hey,
we do
where's
every
Perry?
Okay, all right. One more, and then we'll get back on topic. What are we going to do tonight, Brain? Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
They're actually rebooting the Animaniacs for Hulu.
They better get the original
If
voice
they
actors.
do-
Otherwise
if they
it's gonna be all
screw it-
screwed.
If they screw it up, I will riot.
I think they do have the original voice cast.
I would much rather see them reboot or bring back Pinky and the Brain.
Absolutely, I love.
Oh, man.
Yeah, especially when Snowflake came in, and Pinky, was like, Snowflake, you need help. I
love the episode where Brain was in that big suit, to pass himself off as a human, and he just had the small mouse head, and everybody's like, "Oh, cool, nice to meet you."
Okay, all right, one better. When Brain was the country and western song, and he's calling Bubba Boba Brain. And then he's on this country and western music talk show, and there's a it's supposed to be a facsimile of Dolly Parton, and she's you knew what she looked like back in the 80s and 90s.
Well endowed.
Yes. And she's like, she leans down and she's like, "What do you think about that, Bob Brain?" He's like, "I think nature was inordinately kind to you."
I got one better than that.
Okay, Lyndon, play with us.
When Brain joined the NBA, and he had the interview with God, what was his name? The guy was just like yes all the time.
Oh, Dick Vitale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
was it Dick Vitale?
No. It was
Bill Walton.
Not Bill Walton. It was I can't remember his name. He was always like yes, or from downtown. There was some of the
Bob Costa.
Yeah, Bob Costas.
Bob Costa. Thank you.
Yeah. And Brain was there. Bob, my main man. And they show Brain. He's got all these earrings. He's got all these rings studs in his ears. and doing the interview with Bob, and they're both like, yes.
I mean, I have to say the writing for the Animaniacs and the spinoff Pinky and the Brain, it was not necessarily for like younger children. I mean, some of it even flew over my head as a teenager that I rewatched as an adult. I'm like, oh, okay, because I remember there was like an Animaniacs episode, and it was something was said with about Prince. Dot says like I found Prince or something, and
yes.
Then it's like I think they say no fingerprints, and then Prince gets a smile on his face, and
I don't think so.
Yeah,
that was really clever writing. It really was written so that dads could watch with their kids.
Well, of course, and even as a teenager, I understood why Yakko and Wacko were always going, "Hello,
nurse."
The nurse was a fox, and half the women that were drawn in that show were drawn voluptuously. Let's just be candid.
I mean,
kind of leads you to think that Mr. Spielberg's a little bit of a horn dog, but you know what? He's brought us so much joy. I'm gonna, I think I say we let it pass, let it slide, because he's not. The amazing thing is Spielberg, I don't think has ever been involved or embroiled in any type of scandal or controversy. Well, except for something called the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but we can talk about that.
I blame that more on Lucas more so than Spielberg, but but
Spielberg's name is still on it.
I know, but then again, Spielberg's name is on all 3 Back to the Future films too, so
This is true, and 2 of the Jurassic Park movies.
Yes.
So, but one more thing we'll mention about Animates, and then we'll get back on track. And this will actually lead us back on track. If you remember that one episode, or that one short of Pinky and the Brain that was still before they got separated off into their own show, when they actually tried to do a repeat of the War of the Worlds broadcast from man.
He had the Orson Welles voice down.
Oh, he did. He sounded just like Orson Welles.
That actor, I don't know who he is. I'll have to look him up. But yes,
Maurice, something like that. Yeah,
Maurice LaMarche.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Lindell. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but getting back to other alien invasions. Also, I will say this much: the build up to the discovery that the aliens are actually here to rob us blind. They really knew how to build the suspense, because first you have the countdown and then you have the landing by John. And you know what? I'll say this: the actor who played the alien leader, John, he was charming, but
Oh
yet he
yeah,
was evil. And
yeah,
then at the end, he gets shot by Diana because she's gone off the rails.
yeah. He's been able to pull off that role in so many different movies and TV shows that he's been in. He can be both charming. Richard Hurd.
Yes, Richard Hurd. Thank you.
Yeah, he's done that role so many times, and he's absolutely brilliant at it.
Yes.
He can be good, he can be bad, he can be good and bad. I mean, he really is just a brilliant and charming actor. And you know, I wish he had gotten higher, but as a character actor, he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, because he was really all the actors and actresses, as we've said, were so well done on this show, were so well done in this miniseries. And Colin P. Smith, I have absolutely no idea. Mr. Lindell might be able to tell you as soon as he gets back. So, but
More Shinerbach. More Shinerbach.
So, but yeah, you know, I'll say one relationship in this show that I really enjoyed was actually the one between Donovan and Julie. And everything. That was one I was glad that it was a slow build up and everything. It wasn't an instantaneous romance. It took time for them to get there. So, your thoughts on that, fellas?
Yeah, the fact that he didn't really actually like her when they first met. He was like, "Oh, you are wrong, and you're doing this wrong," and then eventually he was like, "Oh, you're not doing this wrong. Okay, let's see. Okay, wow, you're actually very pretty." I mean, it was a development. It wasn't like they were boyfriend girlfriend immediately because they're both pretty people. You know, it really took time to develop that relationship.
Yes. Well, Sean,
you don't even see it until the final battle. And to answer Colin P, yes, William Hurt was the police captain in T.J. Hooker.
Oh, I have thought T.J. Hooker for forever.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Heather Locklear.
And Colin P. Smith asked the question: was it ever established if converting a left-handed person turned them right-handed? I honestly don't know. I really don't. But I will say one of the more intriguing parts of that show was the whole conversion of people and everything by Diana's little torture chamber.
Yeah.
And, you know what?
When Diana tried to convert Juliet, that was, well, even as a young man, that was an interesting scene for me.
Yeah, that's actually something I did once we got to it. I wanted to ask and this is obviously hypothetical, if you were in that similar situation, do you think she would be able to break you, or do you think your will was strong enough that she couldn't have?
She could have broken me a million times over, man.
Yeah, I'd have broke. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. I'd have been like, all right, it's okay. Just don't hurt me.
Yeah, you got it. Plus, you got to bear in mind that's alien technology. So,
yeah, I mean, I went through SEER training. You know, they're allowed to break one bone during interrogation portion of SEER training. And so, no, I know for a fact in that torture chamber, I probably would have given up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think most people would have.
I'm not trying to sound like a badass here. Far from it.
Uh-oh.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry, Ambassador. Thank you for having me on, but I need to head over to karaoke.
Okay. CC,
right.
Thank you for joining me, bud. I appreciate it. You have a good
Thanks
night.
again, though. It was a great time.
You're
Oh,
welcome.
Ambassador, I gotta leave it about 30 minutes too, just to let you know.
Okay. Well, we can probably wrap up here shortly and everything. That's no problem. So that's fine. Because for this and everything, this wasn't going to be a super long one anyway. So that's perfectly fine. Just to give my point, and then we can move on.
Okay.
Honestly, no. I don't think. No, I don't think she could have broken me because I know what's up here. I know intimately. I know what intimately is up here, and all their little ways of reading my brain. There's nothing they could have found that would have made me break. It would have come down to either, well, basically, they don't let you go. I would have died in there first.
Honestly, like depending on, like, say they came down now and they were like reading my mind and stuff, they would just be like, why does this person know so much about this person named Superman? And, and what is this whole DC Comics thing? And they would just be like, he's defective.
They would do the same thing with me, because it would all be like 50s and 60s B movies.
There you go.
So they look like, oh my God,
yeah,
represents this planet. Okay, let's just go home, give them 1,000 years, then we'll take them over. Yeah.
Good luck. You'll need it. But yeah, well, the one character we haven't really touched upon is Mr. Ironside, Hamilton or Ham.
Oh yeah.
Y'all? Yeah. I mean, this guy, quite literally, he came into the second season and he didn't. I don't think he meant to, but in a lot of ways, he became the focal point. He was the guy who said the unpopular things. He was no nonsense. He was no BS. He knew how to get things done. And even Donovan's like, I don't like this guy, but he knows his crap.
He was kind of like he was. I can't think of the proper term. I don't want to say anti-hero, but he was sort of like the Batman of the Justice League. You know, where like he's abrasive. You know, but you know he wants everything to go well.
He was almost like a rogue agent. Or
he was with
somebody that the government knew would kind of take over, and they just, okay, don't say anything, let him do what he does. When he messes up, we don't know him. He was like that type of person.
Yeah, Sean and Lyndall, I think you both hit it. He was very much like Batman. He was very abrasive, but he knew how to get the job done. He had no time for BS.
Exactly.
He knew what needed to be done. The thing you have to remember about Ham was the fact that he was part of the worldwide resistance. He wasn't local; he was worldwide. He was one of their main, and he was one of their main operatives. Him and the other guy that was with him and everything. They were two of their main operatives, and then they bring in the Teflon ammunition that can actually go through the visitor's armor, and brings in those voice modulators that they put around their throats. And then, of course, they brought in the explosives and everything, the nitroglycerin based explosives. But not only that, I need to know. No, talk about that later. They brought in a lot of creative ideas on how to mess with the visitors. So
They did, and I don't remember a lot of the ways, but I do remember that like they were jacking with him quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, if you remember that one scene or anything where Donovan's son is basically, we know it, but we don't know that he's been converted, and they're releasing him into the Resistance's custody to get their hands on Donovan, on Michael and everything, Mark Singer's character. And Hamilton is overseeing it, and he's like, send over the boy, we'll send over Donovan. And Steven's like, you're allowed. You must be the one they call the fixer. He's like, don't worry about that. Just do what you're told.
Yeah.
And okay, the one part that I actually really enjoyed, this was from Final Battle, was the part where they get the son, Daniel, I think his name is, because he ends up killing Ruby, the old lady, when she's in there, when they're infiltrating that one base and everything, when Julie's being brought down from the mothership. And they essentially, they leave him there, and they've captured Brian, which is the visitor that impregnated the one girl.
Yeah.
And basically, what was his name? Oh, for heaven's sakes, the one gentleman.
In fact, that's how they ended up trapping the grandson, because he was the one that reported the old woman.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, because
they set a trap to make him look like he had been with the resistance, or he had given them information innocently or something. And next thing you know, the ambassador's like, tell the cook to prepare a meal, and the guy's standing right there. So he knew what.
Yeah, you're going to be a great service. You'll serve us well on a serving platter.
Yep.
And he's like, no, don't do it. Anyway,
man, just talking about this, it makes me very, very sad at the state of like sci-fi that we have now. I mean, yeah, once in a while we'll get something that's decent, like like a couple of years ago there was the movie Bright on Netflix with Will Smith. That was okay.
I did not like Bright.
It wasn't the best.
Will Smith is capable of better stuff than that.
Oh, definitely. Will Smith is. He was one of my favorite. Like growing up, he was one of my favorite actors. I mean, when he hit it with Independence Day, and then went into Men in Black, I was all in. And I wish Will would start doing stuff like that again.
Yeah.
Well, part of the problem is he feels like that's beneath him now, because he wouldn't even come back for Independence Day.
Resurgence.
And well, to be perfectly candid, I can't say I necessarily blame him. I'm sorry, Independence Day is not a franchise. It's a single movie. It was a great movie. Leave it alone.
The creator originally, I remember reading this like back when I still had dial-up, after Independence came out in '96. He wanted to make a trilogy.
Really?
And originally that was the plan, to do a trilogy, and I'm sure I've never looked up the box office numbers, but I'm positive that the Independence Day have made
Independence Day made bank.
Yeah.
Independence Day made bank. Huge bank.
It was Titanic and then Independence Day money wise in the 90s.
Yeah. Still like, and we're talking like the end of towards the end of the 90s, still one of my favorite action sci-fi films of all time. All time.
Same.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, if they wanted to do a sequel to Independence Day, they should have gotten Will Smith back.
Yes.
Because you just see him and Vivica Fox, you know, he's saying at certain points, I'm too old for this shit. And then at the end of the movie, she tells him, you're too damn old for this shit. And he's like, who you calling old, woman? You know, that would have been a great way to end that movie.
And then you know, Danny Glover could have had a cameo and be like, I'm too old for this shit too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been great. That would have been great. I would have totally loved that. I didn't hate the movie. You know, it was interesting, but it was not Independence Day to me.
What they were trying to do, in my opinion, was hand it off to a younger generation.
Yeah.
See, but they didn't have enough of the original cast there to effectively do that. I could see their son as, you know, fighter pilot with the new stuff.
Sure.
But put Will Smith, make him a general, put all that fancy shit on his uniform. He's right there next to the guy that ends up being president, and they're making those decisions that have to be made. And him and his wife are afraid because his son has got to do what he did 20 years ago.
Exactly. And besides Vivica A. Fox, I think the only person that Jeff Goldblum and Bill Pullman. I think those were the three that
Judd Hirsch was in
Judd Hirsch, yes.
Yeah, Judd Hirsch was in there too. I think they had pretty much the main characters or the main actors come back to reprise their roles and everything in Resurgence. So
even Brent Spiner.
Yeah, because who was apparently supposed to be dead. We thought he was dead, but no, he was just knocked unconscious. Okay, well, fine, whatever.
Yeah, man. So yeah, really, literally, the only character they were really missing was Will Smith.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. That's messed up. Yeah. That's messed up. Well, I mean, Will probably got the script and he was like,
no. Can't say that's to blame him. So
yeah.
Well, guys, we're coming up on about an hour and a half. Why don't we do final remarks on V, and then we'll close out. So, gentlemen, I yield the floor to you.
Mr. Lundell, I give the floor to you first, sir.
Oh, okay. Very powerful scene we didn't get to talk about.
Sure.
Go ahead. When the dust had been spread over the planet and aliens are dying left and right, Michael Ironside walks into the embassy and there's the ambassador on the floor choking. He calmly opens a bag and just dumps it right on the guy's face.
Steven.
I mean, and if you didn't look at that and go, hell yeah.
Yep.
You did not enjoy that show. Okay.
Oh, I did.
If you didn't enjoy that show. So
oh yeah. Yeah, that was a beautiful that for me was one of my favorite parts. I will have to say for the entire series, one of my favorite parts has to be when Julie rips the face off of John.
Oh,
that right there was visceral.
Live television.
Live
television.
And that was pretty risque for the early 80s, man. It really was. I mean, like, you know, I mean, for primetime TV, like kids. Well, then again, I mean, things weren't so serious back in the 80s, so maybe not.
And to the chat very quickly, Easton Burkholder, good to see you, bud. Thank you for popping that. Appreciate it. Yeah, that for me right there, that for me is one of the truly iconic scenes of the entire series, both parts. Everything is when Julie rips the face off of John. And then, of course, unfortunately, you have Michael Donovan's part and everything. Well, his love interest and everything. Carolyn Walsh, I think her name is. and she finally starts to blurt out what the visitors are trying to do, and I think it's Diana who ends up shooting her, and then Donovan's mother. Jeez, what a
Oh, yeah. That was.
I just real quick, and then I'll let you go, Mr. Lindell. I remember that part. I remember my grandmother saying, I hope I'm remembering this correctly. Jeez, what a backstabbing bitch.
Yeah.
Accurate.
Just call her a quisling, because.
Jeez.
Yes.
Backstab her husband, backstab her son, use her grandchild as a piece of leverage.
Yeah.
What?
She was a piece of work for sure. For sure.
I mean, if you look at her character, she was a social climber through the whole thing anyway. She did not like the fact that her son was out as a cameraman,
Mm-hmm. And he was doing well.
Yeah, he was doing the great stuff. Okay, she didn't like that, she wanted him, I guess, henpecked like her husband was.
Yeah, eventually her husband leaves her. And he's like, and she's like, "You leave, you never come back through that door." He's like,
"Okay,
thank God."
Deuces.
So, Sean, what about you? Your final takeaways from V?
I would say V for everything that they did to create this show. Like the network taking the risk, investing the money in something that complex. You had to, like we said earlier, they had to use a lot of like scale models and stuff. A lot of time crafting this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think because of the risk they took on V, I think that's why, like, just maybe what was it, like 7 or 8 years later, CBS took a chance on John Wesley Shipp doing a Flash TV series, in 1990, and which was also a very expensive television show for trying to do the Flash's lightning and speed force and everything. So I really truly believe that V paved the way for a lot of shows that TV would have never ever tried to take a risk on, because they would think, well, something like this is a big budget, it belongs on the movie screen, it doesn't belong on the TV screen.
Yes, I agree. So, Mr. Lindell, what about you? Any final thoughts? He's muted.
Just to add that's probably why we don't get a lot of sci-fi on television. It's the budget.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, because if they could find a way to do effects cheap and concentrate on the story itself, you would see some, great sci-fi. At least I think you would, because now I have to think back now. I come from an era where you actually read, like in school, we actually read in English class, the Martian Chronicles, and we got an understanding of what Ray Bradbury was trying to tell us. Okay, you don't get that. I don't think they do that now. I mean, do they even spend the time to encourage children to learn how to read anymore, like they did when I was a kid?
I don't think so. I honestly don't think they did that, where they do.
I mean, because I was in the 70s, it was reading is fundamental. You saw that everywhere. Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, in public schools. I mean, and some of my teachers, for 30 minutes, we would just read. They'd tell us, bring something, and for 30 minutes, you're just going to read.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just like you're like they. When I was in school too, they just gave us a time to read quietly to ourselves,
Yeah.
and that as a kid I didn't understand, but that was very 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 good because it
Uh-huh.
you may not be reading on like your own time out of school, but like a lot of kids actually started to learn that hey, there are all of these adventures just like
Yeah.
movies, but and I can imagine it in my mind, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I remember a program and everything. I don't know if it's even around anymore called Bit. And that was a great program and everything. It may have been specific to Indiana where I live and everything and grew up and everything. But yeah. Well, guys, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you both. I want to thank Mr. CC and everything, DV, for joining me tonight. This is one that I wanted to have on the books. I'm glad we got to cover it and everything. This might even be something we revisit at another time on another stream. Who knows?
Yeah.
But to everybody that's been in the chat, Speaker for the Dead, Easton Brookholder, Colin P. Smith, oh, for heaven's sakes, Jens Pender, my good friend, good to see you, bud. Darth Haster, good to see you as well. Thank you all for being here as always. Just an update: there will be no Ambassador Wing next weekend. Next week is Madam Ambassador's birthday, so I'm taking next weekend off to spend with her, and then we'll be back in September with something special and everything because September is my birthday, and I'm playing a series of watch parties specifically. And I'm going to be doing them on a different night because my work schedule has changed. I'm working weekends now, so Saturday is getting to be a little hard to work and then do these. So for September, I've got my calendar here in front of me, so please forgive me. I have to have something. On September 11th, I know that's kind of an odd day to do a stream, but it's the way it works out up and everything. I will be having a watch party for what was one? Okay. I remember the one and everything. September 18th is going to be Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Nice.
I'll be doing a watch party for that. So if anyone wants to be a part of that one, I have just shoot me a DM on. Okay, what was the other one I was wanting to do? It's going to be Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And then, I now remember. I think on September 11th, I'm actually going to do a watch party for Clue because I have a good friend who also has a channel and everything. He's been like, Ambassador, when you go watch Clue? When you go watch Clue? So I'm finally going to sit down and we're going to do a watch party for Clue on the 11th. And then now I remember. Because this stream and everything that I did a number of months ago hit 500 views on Friday, September 25th, I am going to do a watch party for The Fifth Element. So next month is going to be watch parties. Won't be anything on that first weekend in September because it is Labor Day weekend. I want to spend time with family and friends. I imagine a lot of people do as well. So, folks, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being ambassadors and being with me on this journey. This community that we have built would be nothing without you. And good new friends like Sean and Mr. Lindell, thank you both for being a part of this. I greatly appreciate it.
All right, no problem, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, folks, you all have a great evening. And until next time, this is the Ambassadors signing off.